Microbrand Erebus watches launched just about a year ago, but in that short time, they've quickly made a name for themselves in producing some of the most affordable, best value watches on the market. And today we'll be taking a look at their recently announced GMT dive watch to see if they can keep that streak alive. Let's check it out. Hey guys, this is Dave. The channel is Just the Watch, and on this channel I like to talk about all things related to affordable watches. And today we have a first look / review of some new prototypes of an upcoming watch from Erebus Watches. If you didn't already know, Erebus Watches is headed up by Jody from the Just One More Watch channel and his business partner Steve Parker. They've previously released the Origin Dive Watch in 2 different sizes, as well as the Ascent Sports Watch. And now they're jumping on the GMT bandwagon, offering you a pretty impressive set of features for an extremely reasonable price. Even though this is a GMT version of a previously released watch, they're giving you a lot of new color options. There's a new bracelet option, some new bezel options, and as an add-on, they're also offering a number of different strap packs to further customize the watches. Now, these are prototype watches, and as such, this can't be considered a final review of the finished product. In particular, 2 kind of rough manufacturing issues with these prototypes, which I'll mention later on in the review. I did let Erebus know what I found. They say they've already contacted the manufacturer to ensure that the final products don't have those problems. So hopefully that won't be an issue. And while the watches I have in hand are prototypes that I will be sending back to Erebus shortly, they did promise to send me a production model when they're ready, which is why you saw the paid promotions flag at the beginning of this video. However, as always, other than the free watch, I did not receive any additional compensation, nor did Erebus have any control over the content of this review. At first glance, the Origin GMT looks a lot like a regular Origin with a GMT hand added to it, and while this is largely true, there's been a number of interesting tweaks and upgrades that make this a much more interesting watch than its predecessor. One thing that hasn't changed is that this is still a best-in-class value and a top contender for the most feature-packed GMT under $400. They're releasing 2 versions of this watch, each version having 4 different colorways. The lower priced one is called the Classic and will come in at $350, and the premium version will be $399. We'll go through the differences in the feature list of both of these versions in just a second, but when we do, you kind of got to wonder how Erebus is actually making any money on these. I think everybody probably has a list of features that they would want out of a dive watch, and it's rare to find one that will tick off every single one of those boxes. And the Erebus Origin GMT is the lowest priced watch that I've seen that ticks off every single one of my boxes. But that's when talking about the objective technical specifications and features of a dive watch. And as important as that is, it is only half the story, with design being the other half, which plays an equally important factor when considering whether or not a watch is going to be the right fit for you. In their Origin line of watches, Erebus is going for a very particular style of watch, which is a very rugged, functional tool watch style diver. This is not a dive watch that is meant to look pretty or something that you would wear into the office necessarily. This is not meant to be a desk diver. So in order to support that vision, you're getting very high contrast, large hands and markers that feature a big, blocky, boxy design. The case is very angular, and both the case and bracelet are fully brushed with no polished accents whatsoever. This is a watch not designed for elegant looks, but for pure functionality. But interestingly enough, on top of this very functional, almost brutish design aesthetic, Erebus has decided to give you an array of very bright and fun color choices that go a long ways in making this very serious looking tool watch into something much more fun. All right, let's go through the checklist of technical specifications on these watches. And this is one area where I think Jody's experience as a YouTube watch reviewer is starting to show a little bit. Because if you've watched enough YouTube watch reviews, there are certain things that reviewers tend to complain about. And if you're an avid viewer of Jody's channel, Just One More Watch, you know that he has a certain list of things that he often likes to complain about. And so it makes sense that when he has a hand in designing his own watch, he's able to avoid all of those complaints that most YouTubers have. So let's go through them. It's got the basics like a sapphire crystal and a signed screw-down crown. It has very wrist-friendly proportions with a 41mm diameter, a 47mm lug-to-lug, and of course 20mm lug width, which makes it extremely easy to find a wide variety of straps to pair with these watches. And Erebus is happy to support this not only by giving you bracelets that have quick-release spring bars, but also offering a wide variety of strap packs that allow you to change up the look of your watch in many different ways. The bracelets, meanwhile, are of excellent quality, featuring solid end links, solid links, milled clasp, a clasp with tool-free micro adjust, and links that feature screws instead of pins that make sizing the bracelet even easier. I'm also a big fan of the date implementation on this watch. It's positioned at 6 o'clock above a half marker, which allows for lume to be applied even at the 6 o'clock position. And now that I've brought up lume, that brings us to the final aspect of this watch that is kind of a crowd pleaser when it comes to YouTube watch reviews, because Erebus has put some seriously impressive lume on here. Now, these are prototypes, but these ones are running even brighter than the prototypes for the standard Erebus Origin that I last reviewed. I put them through my J-score test, and they came out with a very powerful score of 14, which means that they rank in the top 10 brightest watches that I have tested. Finally, you're given the choice of either a stainless steel or fully lumed ceramic bezel. And again, every single one of these features is available on the classic $350 version, so the lower priced version. For an extra $50 to upgrade to the premium, you can get a bicolor ceramic bezel, which is more difficult to manufacture, and because of that, you typically don't see bicolor ceramic bezels on anything anywhere near this price range. In fact, this is the most affordable watch that I've seen one on. And the other upgrade is a fully brushed J-style bracelet. So this is a bracelet that looks very much like Rolex's Jubilee style bracelets, but it is definitely not a Jubilee bracelet because Jubilee is a patented term that nobody other than Rolex can use. Where this bracelet differs from Rolex's heavily in style and from pretty much any other J-style bracelet that I've seen is the fact that this is fully brushed. Normally, bracelets of this style feature polished center links. In keeping with the idea that this is a tool watch, they have gone with a fully brushed bracelet, which is unusual, but I think it looks pretty cool here. I like that Erebus really thought this through and tried to give you something different, something that you don't normally find on this style of watch, and yet turn it into something that fits with this style of watch. And I think that bracelet combined with that bicolor bezel is a really winning combination. I was sent a version with a black and red bezel, also known as a Coke style bezel. And for me, this is a much more attractive look that definitely elevates the watch and makes it a lot more appealing. That said, the differences between the classic and the premium versions are largely cosmetic. Both versions have identical specifications and functionality. Now, in comparison with the original Origin dive watch, the non-GMT version, this one has a few minor changes. The most noticeable is the inclusion of their applied logo instead of a printed logo, and I think this is a great upgrade. It's a small change that makes a large impact on the perceived quality of the watch. The other change is one that you probably won't notice. The proportions have been changed slightly. The bezel's a little bit thicker, the dial's a little bit smaller. It's something most people would never notice unless you had the two versions side by side, but I do think it looks a little bit better. Okay, let's talk design. And again, not much has changed between the original Origin dive watch and this version. And design is a tough thing to critique because that is by far the most subjective aspect of a watch. Different people are going to connect with the look of a watch in different ways, and arguably you don't really need a reviewer to talk that much about the design because most people will be able to make that decision just by looking at pictures and videos themselves. But whether you need my opinion or not, it's something that I will give you because this is a watch review, and for me, the design of a watch is at least 50% of the desirability of a watch. I've seen a lot of micro-brand dive watches, and for me, the Erebus Origin is kind of an above-average design, but it's not one that I personally am that attracted to. Some aspects just look a little bit awkward to me, probably most noticeable in the case design. Something about the angles of the crown guards coming out of the case just kind of strikes me as a little bit ungainly. And the square and rectangular markers combined with the big blocky hour and minute hands just isn't quite connecting with me. But again, all of these are very minor and also very subjective. Now, moving on to two problems that are potentially more significant. There were some manufacturing defects that I noticed in the prototypes that were sent to me. The first is in regards to the bezel on one of the two watches. I forgot to mention earlier, the bezel action is excellent and it is bidirectional. Again, a huge plus in favor of these watches. These are 48-click bidirectional bezels. Again, something that you rarely see on watches in this price range. And this is a feature that is huge on a GMT watch. Most often you'll either get a friction fit bezel that has a tendency to get knocked out of place very easily, or you're going to get a diving bezel that only rotates in one direction. The 48-click bidirectional bezel featured here is a joy to use and is just incredibly smooth and satisfying on one of the watches that was sent over. And this is how I expect the bezel action to be on all of the watches that are sent out from Erebus. They have already alerted their manufacturer to this issue and hopefully it won't come up. But the bezel on the Coke version that I was sent quickly developed a scraping and grating sound that was somewhat unpleasant. And if this were a watch that I had ordered myself, it would be one that I would be sending back for repair or replacement. The second issue I had was when sizing the J-style bracelet. The first screw link that I tried to remove got stuck as I was unscrewing it, so I tried to screw it back in. It eventually jammed tight, sticking just slightly above the edge of the bracelet, and I was afraid any additional force would completely strip the screw, so I kind of just left it like that. This is a problem that I've had on screw link bracelets before, and it's one of the reasons I don't actually prefer screw links personally. They're widely considered to be the more premium option. They are more expensive to produce, and they are much easier to adjust than pin and collar or just regular pin bracelets. But if you wind up stripping a screw, it can be a major headache. Anyways, again, these are prototypes. These kinds of things happen, and hopefully by the time the production units are shipped out, all of that will be completely ironed out. To sum everything up, the Erebus Origin GMT is an even better value than the previous Origin divers, which is incredibly impressive because those were some of the best value divers that I've ever seen. And while the Origin design isn't my personal favorite, I do find the GMT version to be an improvement and more attractive in my opinion, particularly the bicolor bezel versions. All in all, this is a good upgrade to the watch and an outstanding price for what is on offer here. All right, guys, that's going to wrap it up for today. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. For me, I've been very impressed with the value of the watches that Erebus has put out already, as well as with the pace at which they've been able to get these watches to the market, and I'm excited to see what's coming up next from them. These GMT watches are in pre-order, but the production is already in progress, so they should be able to get the first batch out fairly quickly. And they've said that if they do sell out of the first batch, they will be ordering a second run. So if you get your pre-order in quickly, you'll have a better chance of getting your watch quickly by being able to get one of the first run watches rather than having to wait for the second production run. And if you're not interested in purchasing one of their watches, you might want to get a watch themed t-shirt like this one here. You can pick these up on my website at justthewatch.com. That's going to wrap it up for today. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you later. Bye.